The afternoon sun cast golden rays across the sprawling gardens of Rosewood Estate, where white roses climbed elegant trellises and perfectly manicured lawns stretched toward a crystal-clear lake. Ethan Hayes stood near the altar, adjusting his silver cufflinks for the third time in as many minutes. As the best man, he should have been focused on his childhood friend's happiness, but instead he found himself checking his watch, scanning the assembled guests with barely concealed impatience. Wedding ceremonies had never been his favorite events. As the founder and CEO of Hayes Technologies, a company valued at over $3 billion, Ethan spent most of his time in boardrooms and business meetings. At 32, he had built an empire from a small startup in his garage. His dedication to success left little room for social niceties. Romance, in particular, it's always seemed like an unnecessary distraction from his goals. The string quartet began playing, signaling the start of the procession. Bridesmaids glided down the aisle in flowing champagne-colored gowns, each carrying bouquets of white peonies. Ethan barely noticed them until he heard a commotion at the back of the venue. The massive oak doors burst open, and a young woman rushed inside, her heels clicking frantically against the stone pathway. She was breathless, her dark hair falling loose from what had clearly been an elegant updo. The champagne dress she wore matched the other bridesmaids, but unlike their composed appearance, she looked like she had just run a marathon. Her cheeks were flushed. She clutched her bouquet with white-knuckled intensity. As she hurried to take her place in line, Ethan found himself staring. There was something magnetic about her, something real and unpolished that stood in stark contrast to the carefully curated perfection surrounding them. When she finally looked up and caught his gaze, her green eyes widened with embarrassment. She mouthed a silent apology before taking her position, and Ethan felt an unfamiliar flutter in his chest. The ceremony proceeded without further incident, but Ethan's attention kept drifting to the mysterious late arrival. She stood with perfect posture now, her expression serene as she watched the bride and groom exchange vows. Yet he noticed the way her fingers trembled slightly around her bouquet, how she blinked rapidly as if fighting back tears. There was a story there, he realized. Layers of depth that intrigued him far more than any business proposal ever had. When the reception began, Ethan made his way through the crowd with singular purpose. He found her standing near the edge of the dance floor, sipping champagne and watching couples sway to a jazz melody. Up close, she was even more striking. Her features were delicate but strong, and despite her earlier dishevelment, she now carried herself with quiet grace. "You know, that was quite an entrance," Ethan said, approaching with an easy smile. "I don't think I've ever seen someone make being late look so dramatic." She turned to him, and a genuine laugh escaped her lips. "Trust me, that wasn't my intention. My car decided today was the perfect day to break down on the highway. I had to hitchhike the last 2 miles. Hitchhike." Ethan raised his eyebrows. "That's either incredibly brave or slightly reckless." "Probably both," she admitted, her smile widening. "But I couldn't miss Rachel's wedding. She's been one of my closest friends since college." Ethan extended his hand. Ethan Hayes, the groom's best friend and partner in crime since elementary school. Her hand was warm in his, her grip firm and confident. Ella Monroe, professional wedding latecomer, and apparently hitchhiker extraordinaire. They talked easily, their conversation flowing from wedding anecdotes to childhood memories. Ethan learned that Ella worked at a community center in the city, organizing programs for underprivileged families. When she spoke about her job, her entire face lit up with passion and purpose. She talked about teaching art classes to children, helping families access resources, and creating a safe space for people who needed support. "It doesn't pay much," Ella said with a self-deprecating shrug, "but it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Some of these kids, they come from really tough situations.